Hello, welcome to episode 13 of the Blindsided podcast. In today's episode, we're talking about fear and fear that comes through conditioned, a conditioned mind. Could be some things that we went through in life that we carry it forward. It could be innate, that hardwired fear, the good one. And we're going to talk about thinking fear and the effects and what we can do about it to to manage it and be rid of most of it as we move forward. Hello again, my name is Charlie Collins. I am a coach. I'm an international speaker. I am the co-founder of Thriving Blind Academy. Oh, and a speaker.
Hi, Charlie. You did a great job there. My name is Brenda, and I'm the founder of Time for a 10. We are an emotional awareness and intelligence coaching service, and we actually help people see their conditioned thinking and give them all kinds of different tools so that they can change their thinking and manage their emotions better, use them to their advantage. So I'm really glad to be here. And you forgot to mention that you're also an author. You've written a great book. And the name of that book is?
Tripping into the Light.
Yep.
That's really, the book is breaking through the barrier that the grip that fear had on my life, and tripping into the light of spiritual, but like the possibilities. And I didn't die taking risks and trying new things in my life, but fear had built walls around me, and as I got more confused and older, it seemed to get smaller, and I didn't know it was fear.
We're so used to it, aren't we? We're so used to it, we don't even recognize it as fear anymore. It's just, I remember, I can't remember actually as a kid ever not being afraid, right? So, my first experience with fear was fear of making a mistake or doing something wrong, because when we would get in trouble growing up, there was violence in our home. So we were always afraid to upset either one of my parents. So that was kind of like living in that kind of state of fear from a very young age really had me on the lookout for something bad to happen, for example. So I was in fear quite a bit. And it just became this natural thing that I dealt with. And if there wasn't anything scary going on, there was something scary coming. So there's the fear. Can you identify?
And that also would to you as children take on. They start saying it's because of me.
Yeah.
That my dad's angry, they're fighting, this is going on because they yelled at me and I don't seem to do things right. And I know kids take that on, and now it's conditioned as in it's part of you, and it'll show itself for many years until we do the work and take a look at it. Now, I would like to share just I don't know, like 2 weeks ago, I went to Florida, and my daughter turned 26. We planned it a long time ago, and we stayed at her place. And there's a band there that she goes to see every Tuesday night. For the most part, it's a Grateful Dead band, well, a cover band, and they've been together 31 years. But about 3 months ago, she approached the band. She's friends with them. And she said, "Hey, my dad's coming for my birthday. Do you think he could play with you guys?" And they're like, "We'll have to talk about that. We'll have to discuss that as a band." And then she's all excited. She tells me, "Dad, I think they're going to let you play with them." I said, "I don't remember you asking me if I wanted to." Immediately when she said that to me, all of a sudden I felt fear. I felt, wait a minute, that's scary. That's uncharted waters. I'm not good enough. I mean, it deployed all the reasons why that was a very dumb thing to do, to ask them if to play. So anyway, I don't know, a month or so went by and I don't hear. I'm like, oh, maybe she forgot. Good. And but secretly, I was practicing some things that, in case it ever happened. And Brenda, I went there, and that she's like, oh yeah, it's on, and I'm standing. The band is playing the first 4 or 5 songs. I'm not really into it because I'm in fear.
Hmm.
They're going to call my name. I shouldn't do this. Then I'm thinking, I got to get out of here. I'll go hide somewhere for an hour. Uh, you know, and back in the old days when I drank, I would I would go up and do it, but then I would make an ass out of myself and be totally embarrassed the next day. So anyway, they made it. I just felt the fear and I did it anyway. I didn't say I shouldn't feel this. It's normal. I'm like, yeah, I've never played with them and I'm not as good as them. That's a fact. But that isn't what it was about. I didn't need to compare myself to them in order to feel good about myself. That wasn't it. So I went up. They made it easy. I played 2 songs. I did well. And when people were clapping after I played a lead, I'm like, wow, I kind of like this now. I'm on stage. It's so dark, I can't see them. I couldn't see them anyway, but I could see why the nerves of what they're thinking of me. Anyway, so then I come down, and people were coming up to me, Brenda, and saying, "Wow, that was great. You're so good." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. Don't say this. I could have done better." That started, that conditioned, I'm not worthy of your praise. But then maybe after the first person, I said, no, that was amazing. And I'm sure some good energy came. And it wasn't about me. People got enjoyment out of it. And they
Right.
thought it was so cool that the out of towner dad walked up on stage and played with the band. And fear, never. Well, first of all, fear kept me away from starting the guitar. I did finally did at 40. Fear, I never. I would have just not gone to Florida. I would have said, I need to stay home. I can't go. Why? Because my left toe hurts. I would have to make a story and build a case and defend why, and I wouldn't say I'm afraid. I would say, my guitars are all burnt. It's just crazy what I would do to build to protect people from knowing I'm afraid.
Yes. Yes. And it seems to be all about, what other people are going to think of you. And wow, that's a powerful story. And you plowed through the fear and you went to Florida and you got up on the stage and you played with the band and it was a great experience.
It
You
was.
didn't let fear take over. It's insidious when I think about it. It's, you know, as an undergraduate, I wanted to go to Yale and I didn't get in. And now fast forward a whole bunch of years, I had this very synchronistic event happen in my life where I read this book. It was completely transformative for me. My daughter actually read this book with me. It's called The Awakened Brain by Dr. Lisa Miller. And I was in a meditation, and this is a year after I read the book, and her name came into my brain 3 times fast. I mean, I was really transformed by this book. And I knew in that moment that I had to go and look up this author and find out about her. And when I looked her up, because I'd forgotten, it was over a year later. When I looked her up, she was the founder of the Spirituality, Mind, and Body Institute at Columbia University, an Ivy League school, and I was petrified to apply because I was carrying around this trauma from not getting into Yale as an undergraduate, which, by the way, I wasn't qualified to get into Yale. So there's that, right? And I'm like, no, I just have to do it. So I go through the application process and I get everything done and I get accepted into this program, right? So it's like a dream come true. And at the summer intensive, when we had our first, it was, last summer we had a week-long intensive where we had to stay on campus. And I showed up at that first session of the summer intensive, and I was petrified. I don't belong here. I'm not good enough. I'm not as smart as these people. I don't know what to do. And we had to write a reflection paper on how we were feeling after that first summer intensive class. And that's what I wrote, the stream of consciousness of what was coming out of my brain about how I felt. And forget about how this was a dream come true for me, not only to be at an Ivy League school learning from the kind of experience and teachers that were there, but to be in the program of this woman whose book changed my life. I mean, how many people do you know read a book and then get taught by the person who wrote the book? I mean, you had that experience with Jack Canfield, right? Is it Canfield? Did I say that right?
You did.
Right? So here I am, and I have this experience of a lifetime standing in front of me, and I'm just riddled with fear to the point where I can't enjoy what's happening in front of me. And it's taken quite some time to be able to settle down, because then, of course, the semester started after the summer intensive, and now it's about, well, I have to prove I'm good enough, so I have to get straight A's, which I've gotten straight A's, but at a very high cost for me. I'm working full time, taking 3 graduate classes, building time for a 10, having a full-time job. It's just been insane, all driven by fear. And that's my fear story of late.
Fear, I mean, in check, it could drive us to do things so we don't feel it, which means things as in work harder in school. It could do some good things, but over time, if it's percolating, you're going to feel some stress, anxiety. You're going to, and those things aren't good for the autonomic nervous system. To have that in our body a lot. I mean, fear, not only does it rob us from opportunities, from going, I mean, I failed out of college, and I feared out. I'm like, there's so many smart people here and then me. And I am legally blind, but I'm like, I could never do this because you got to have good eyes. No, you don't. But anyway, I didn't do much with my life. I did landscape and but like, I didn't have dreams. I didn't want to become like, I wanted to be wealthy, but I wanted someone to give it to me. I'm entitled, damn it. And I, I got an opportunity in a motorcycle dealership, but I'm not going to take the job because I'm not smart enough. I didn't go to college. I don't know motor, and I'm legally blind. And, thankfully, the higher self, because each time I face some transformation in my life, fear almost stopped me. But something in me, that higher self said, just act as if, pretend you're going to do it and show up that way. And because I just pretended and showed up, I mean, I look back and think, wow, it's amazing what the mind was doing. It was, keeping me away from, not letting me move forward, and and thank God I stepped through it.
Thank God. And you bring up some really good points, and I had a similar experience in this experience with school. I was able to recognize that it was conditioned thinking, that it was old trauma, that it was a belief system that wasn't working for me anymore. And I was able to say, none of this is true. We talk about pausing and challenging the reality, challenge the story, the narrative that your brain is telling you. And I was able to do that. And I had some really challenging moments, like when I would meet this professor, the author of the book, Dr. Miller. I get very nervous around her. I could barely speak. When she'd pay me a compliment, I'd be like, oh, really? Like a high school kid. But I was gentle and kind with myself and allowed myself to experience that and know that by experiencing that and doing it anyway, in other words, not having the best conversation I would have liked to have in her presence, but allowing myself to have that experience and be okay with whatever, right? But I showed up in front of the fear. I didn't let the fear keep me away or stop me from moving forward. And those experiences, the more of them that we have in the face of fear, the more comfortable we get navigating fear. We get more comfortable, at least I have, in saying, it's really just me. Like observing it from the outside, being the observer of the feeling and saying, is there really anything to be afraid of? Is there really anything to be afraid of? Play the tape out. And sometimes I'll play the tape out to the worst thing that could possibly happen. And when I play the tape out to the worst thing that could possibly happen, I've already been through something 10 times worse than that, and I'm fine.
I hear you.
Right?
Yeah. And again, none of this was taught. Not they didn't I didn't know that a conditioned way of thinking. Conditioned means, it was go to. It was my most practiced way of my thought process, which I didn't really even have control over because it was conditioned. It was unconscious, and it would just, if I went into a stimulus or something or around people I didn't know, then the condition came up and said, don't talk, do this, do that, don't do. And it's like, boy, I got to turn around, and go another way, because if I tried to step into the conditioned mind would take over and say, this is very unsafe. I'm keeping you safe. And by you asking somebody a question, and showing them that you don't know everything, I that's unsafe. I don't like that, because they might think you're a loser. So our brains are in us to keep us safe, right? So if we condition ourselves fear, then that's its best way of giving us a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is. It is. And you're right in it is so always there. It's so conditioned. It's in everything. It's in, for I don't know, we're about the same age. So when I was growing up, there were so many rules. Like you had to be this and you had to do that and you had to get the art project right in kindergarten. I remember getting yelled at and shamed in kindergarten because I drew a tree trunk the wrong way. With being a strict Irish Catholic, we had those 10 commandments, and if you didn't, if you told a lie or you didn't do something right, you had to go to confession and what was going to happen, and there was a punishment. So there was just this whole system of fear that was installed growing up. And then you had to get good grades and you had to be a good athlete. You had to do this, you had to do that. And so it's not only that, for me anyway, my worth was being based on whether I was achieving or not, whether I was being a good person or not, whether I was obeying the rules or not. And if I wasn't, there was consequences. So there was that kind of conditioned fear, and unlearning that has been quite the journey. It's a great journey, but it takes a lot of work to just unlearn it and challenge that conditioned thinking and say, it's really not true. I mean, I think fear is false evidence appearing real. I think that's one of the things that we learned. And so a lot of times when I'm feeling a feeling of fear, I will ask myself, is there any evidence to support this fear? Has this ever happened? And what I find is it hasn't. Like, I'm afraid of things happening that have never happened, probably will never happen. And that's the kind of thinking that will trigger all kinds of other fears that are sitting up there in my experience and in my mind that will validate, yeah, you should be afraid. No. If I just pause and I challenge that reality, challenge that narrative, it's usually not even close to reality.
And that false evidence appearing real, I think that's funny, because there is no evidence. It hasn't happened yet. I'm creating the evidence. I'm making up the imagination, and of course, I'm applying fear to. It's never going to work out the way, smoothly, without any whatever it might be. And then I drop into, I don't share about it or whatever. It's so unhealthy. And Brenda, I thought, like, when do I know I'm in fear? When do I realize fear is making my decisions? When do I realize And that's important for people to start because it's conditioned. You're going through your day, you don't even realize fear. I shouldn't say you, I didn't. And I'm sure most of us that get honest and vulnerable and want to take a look, because this constant, never ending improvement is, I can't get enough. It's like, I didn't know. I mean, where we are now, it keeps getting better. It's
Yeah.
like, God. But anyway, I would take, do you feel anxious at times? Like, are you, and look at the type of stimulus that's triggering more. Do you feel stress? Do you worry? Do you, do you blame, complain, rationalize, justify, defend why, whatever, and then of course make excuses? If that stuff, and not take responsibility. People have a lot of fear, don't take responsibility, they deflect because they don't want attention, they don't want you to know that they made a mistake or they did something naughty.
Yeah. Yeah. You said two really important things. You said they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know. And when they've made a mistake, those are really two fear triggers that used to drive me to do things like lie. Lie is another one. If you're lying about something, you're in fear. You
Yeah.
know, even if you're lying about a small thing, you're in fear. There's another one that we talk about at Time for 10 a lot, and it's, you and I were talking about it the other day. It's called Jade. When you're justifying, attacking, defending, or explaining, thank you, Sue. When you're doing any of those things, you're in fear. You're in your inner child. It's like an adult tantrum when you're doing that. And when you're throwing a tantrum like that, when you're doing those behaviors, those are fear triggers that are driving those behaviors.
Yeah. It's that, fear running the show was the Ferrari in first gear, red line all day long,
Yeah.
wondering why I am exhausted at the end of the day. And I'm in my 30s. I shouldn't be this tired. And I didn't know that, it heightens the RPMs in the body. It could even release some adrenaline and different things to help us move quicker and get away from. And I mean, because you got to say, humans were built to not die from saber-toothed tigers and all. So they constantly had radars of fear. They had to, because in their little cave, they could get eaten. So, and that part of our brain is still with us. So we have the amygdala, this almond-shaped small part, but boy, does it coach the rest of the brain big time, and it filters it does things that you don't even give it permission, because it's its most practiced way of running the show for you.
Yeah. I heard somebody say one time, and it really hit me between the eyes, that people are addicted to fear. People are addicted to their fear. And it was really something to think about. I mean, when I don't watch the news anymore, and the reason why I don't watch the news is because it is just fear, 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 fear. Sensationalism of terrible things that are going on in the world for the fear factor involved in it. It's I don't know, Charlie. It seems like a lot of us are addicted to fear. What do you think about that?
um, People are addicted to anxiety, stress. They're addicted to their body, as in its ailments and sharing. People are addicted to eating, alcohol, drugs. Absolutely fear, because it releases chemicals in the brain, in the body, and not for the right reason. It could be a big dopamine and adrenaline hit. So if you think about the fears, the innate, the hardwired fears we were born with, if you're walking down a dark driveway and you hear something rustling, and you're like, that is not in my normal, what I hear. And I'm like, someone there? Nobody's answering, and then it rustles more. Well, my body, now the amygdala says, all right, we're not going to, like, pause and process. I'm not going to do a little meditation. I'm not going to call somebody and say, "Hey, what should I do about this?" My body, my nervous system took over in that moment, and I ran. I didn't think. I didn't have to look at social media. I didn't. I mean, it dominated my body, and that's what people do, like through thinking fear. They can actually get themselves so worked up that their autonomic, the nervous, sympathetic nervous system will activate. And when you're activated, oh, immune system's no longer, disease starts showing up, all sorts of autoimmune type things start plaguing your body because our bodies aren't meant to be in that state.
Right, right. It's interesting. I'm studying somatics, and I've learned that through studying it, that the body is like an antenna. So your body will react to the stimuli in your environment and let you know through sensations in your body whether you should be afraid or not when you start to really pay attention to that. So it gives you an opportunity when you start paying attention to how your body is feeling. It gives you an opportunity to pause and reground yourself if you find a sensation that you know is going to lead to activation. And we teach that at Time for a 10. We teach people how to recognize when something is happening in their body, so they have that very short window of time between the body activating the amygdala and then all bets are off. They have that little window of time where they can do a grounding exercise, whether it's the nostril breathing that we've done, the belly breathing that we've shown, the rubbing your hands together, looking at your feet and getting in the present moment, staying right where your feet are. There's all kinds of grounding exercises you can do when you start to recognize that that amygdala is starting to get activated. And I do that a lot. I find myself doing that quite a bit during the day when that thinking starts, because it only takes one thought to start triggering that domino effect of other thoughts that results in an activation. So if we can, do a grounding exercises when that first domino falls, because you feel the first domino falling, you can stop the rest. You can stop the rest from falling.
Yeah. When I was in the motorcycle business, a company, all of a sudden, No Fear came out on hats, and they had the funniest and the greatest. And I had all their shirts, hats, and I proudly wore them. That's right, I have no fear. Mostly because I had alcohol in me, and but I mean, I stood by that. I wore that hat. I mean, that hat proudly. Like, I'm cool because I'll try it. I'll do the jump on the motorcycle. And fear might not. I can't show it. So, and then, gosh, Brenda, when I found out that was a lie, I had fear, and what people will do to mask it, to pretend they don't have it because they shouldn't. Because I'm hanging out with four people and they all jump off a rock ledge into the water, and I'm like, I'm afraid. And because when I was 6, I jumped. There's some reason it's coming. Could be my blindness. I can't really see the impact that well, and I could bow out, walk down, kind of stop, walk away from them. They're teasing me, and I could say, no, I just can't do it. I got to go. Then I can't talk to them anymore for a while. I'm embarrassed. Now I have fear of rejection, and they're telling everybody. I'm sure they just got home and called everybody they knew and said, "You wouldn't believe it." None of that happened, but that's what you were saying. This triggering and how it just multiplies into nothing.
It does, and it's all up here. It's all up here. And one of the things that I've learned that brings me great comfort is I'm not that important. I was sharing it the other day on our coaches meeting that it's just nice to be one of many. I'm not that important. Nobody is going to get on the phone and say, oh, guess what Brenda did today? Guess what she said today? Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Well, I hear you, and like the news, fear mongering and negativity sells a lot better than spirituality and inspiration.
Yes.
Sadly, but
Yes.
that's because our brains. I mean, negative and fear. That stuff resonates with me because I'm built for that.
Yeah.
To be happy, joyous, and free. Oh, let me see what's on the next station. Um, and those types of shows don't seem to make it. It's so sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I There's another method. It's I feel the fear. I am projecting. I am thinking that the people might receive what I'm going to ask, do, or try to sell them in a certain way. So I'm building my case of why and how it's going to fail, how I'm going to get rejected, how they're going to think, I'm building that case. So I stop. I realize I'm not, when I'm able, Brenda, to think about how can I meet the needs of this customer, these people, and really listen to them so I can give them the best type of solution for their journey, right? But when fear's in the way, um, I think about me and I think about not winning. I think all the wrong things. And then it always happens because I projected it. And so
Yes.
I make a call. I say, if it's you, hey, Brenda, I'm feeling some fear and this is the reason. And I know that I brought it on. We do have a couple of fears. We're afraid of loud noises and I forget the other one, Latin, maybe darkness, as from babies, but that's it. We only have two. And now, when I was 35, I had hundreds. And anyway, I kind of forgot what I was saying.
Happens to me all the time, Charlie. Do you find that your fears, most of them kind of boil down to, I'm not going to get what I want, or I'm going to lose something I have?
That and I'm going to look stupid because I called myself that. So, what I think about me before I knew what self esteem was, self confidence, self reliance, a power greater than me, before I knew what joy was and, all these things, um, I had a fear of I think losing, but also looking stupid, like because that's what I told myself. So
Mm-hmm.
if you said, "Boy, that was a really stupid thing you just did," I'd be like, "I knew they knew," you know. So I had to protect that. I never wanted people to see the true scared person that I was. So I would ride my BMX bike and do the jump faster than the other two boys, so I could go further and I was so afraid. I didn't want to do that. I had to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You mentioned having hundreds of fears, and when we did this work, we had to kind of inventory what our fears were. And I too, like before I did this work, I was like, oh, I'm not afraid of anything. I was certified in skydiving. I'd jump out of planes. I would teach classes to over 300 people and not be nervous in front of them. I could care less, right? And it was all a mask. I was shoving the fear down and not even acknowledging that I was afraid. I was not being authentic in any way. And that got me just so far, because you can only lie to yourself for so long before the gig is up, right?
Yep.
You just can't do it. After a certain point, you just can't do it anymore, because that energy has to get out of your body somehow. Your body keeps the score, and it can only hold so much of that energy. And when I did my fear inventory, I went, oh, this is going to be great. I'm really not that afraid of anything. And there were hundreds of fears that I narrowed down to like 50 of them. And then after I acknowledged those fears and I started allowing them to express, which is what you said, it's really, really important, allowing them to express. So acknowledging that they are there. finding where they came from. What's the root cause of that fear? When did it first start? How old do you feel when you're feeling this fear? Like getting at, all right, so where's the injury associated with that fear? Because it all comes from some kind of injury or trauma, even the small ones, right? Rejection, abandonment, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then being willing to change the way I'm thinking about that fear. Is it happening? Is it happening to me? Is it happening to me now? And most of the time it's not. Then I slowly but surely move past those fears, and then I can challenge them as they come up. And what you said was really important. I can't do that alone. You said it right from the beginning, like my conditioned mind can't fix my conditioned mind. I did that with another human being who showed me the way, who was able to constructively and empathetically and compassionately say, maybe we should look at this differently. What if we looked at this fear in this way? Where's the evidence for this fear ever happening again? Or that it really happened the way you thought it happened? Because a lot of times the fears that I was feeling and acting out on was a misperception of what the original event was. It was a misperception. And so when I allow somebody else to take me through that process of inventorying those fears and identifying where they came from and what they really are, and reappraising them, reframing them, looking at them differently, everything
Mhm.
changed. Everything changed.
And thank you for that's where I started to say that, and then I went off. Yeah, I took a right turn somewhere.
Yeah, that's okay.
But no, I call you and I say, I'm feeling, I'm afraid, I'm thinking of me. I uncover that I'm only thinking of me. I think it should go a certain way. I'm taking the charge. I'm not releasing it and just going to do the right thing and really look how I can serve. And then, I realize fear is, and you said it, Brenda, like when I'm in that space, I don't see any other space. I don't see another state. I don't see, that I used to get mad at customers in my store. I'm like, God, they irritate me. Well, that's because I wasn't in a good space, and they weren't performing well. They weren't. They asked too many questions, stupid ones. I am, I got things to do. I got to go play solitaire. I'm just kidding, but so, yeah, this is a lifelong journey. I mean, because my fear, I didn't die when I went up on stage. And when I went to a conference and I got called out by Jack Canfield, and he pulled my covers and said, "Are you going to continue to let fear run your life, or are you going to start taking charge?" And I'm like, "Shut up. I don't even know what that means, but I don't like you." And he just did it in front of 300 people. And I didn't die. And some of the fear that I thought I was going to die because it was horrifying, whatever it was, and I came out so much better. I came out like that moment that this happened, I transformed. In that moment, I like whatever just kind of trickled away. It's like, I can do this. My esteem came up. I started believing in myself.
Yeah.
I started liking people more.
Yeah.
I started uh, being curious, and it's like fear took all of that away.
Yeah. It'll rob you of everything. It'll take it all if you let it. And you said something else really important, Charlie, is, you mentioned your higher power. And, we're not always in a position to ground. Like when I'm driving the car, I can't stop and do my breathing exercises with the nostril thing, right? I'm getting an accident. But I can, right? I can go inward in prayer or with words and ask my higher power to remove the fear. There's a prayer that says, remove the fear and show me what you'd have me be. And just engage in the universe or nature, whatever is your higher power, and ask for help. When I ask for help, I usually get it.
I think it's too that we're acknowledging that our lower self, our self-centeredness, our dishonest thinking process, our and fear is they're all working together to build a case, like an event that isn't not going to go that way if you don't do that,
Yeah.
and that's like, oh, and you say like, oh, you said that was really good what you said. Well, you always say good stuff, and I realize I don't say that after you, sure. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm afraid of what Brenda thinks of me. No, I'm just kidding.
No, no.
We I have worked with people that were crippled with fear. And I mean, fear will get you stuck in your house. It's so funny. I'm depressed. I'm feeling alone. And my solution to when I is because fear is now in the way, it's running the show and all that. So my thinking says, you know what you should do? Isolate.
There's
Then
a
you'll
good
figure
idea.
it out. Yeah.
Just stay in your head. Stay in your head. Where were you going with that? Were you done?
Yes, I was. Thank you.
And so, one of the things that we've learned, right? One of the things we've learned is that when we're in that place, that the best thing, the number one cure for that is what?
When we're in that place,
Of fear, fear and anxiety and the spinning.
to go to like one of those like axe throwing places. Or those places where you can take a bat and beat up
No,
computers.
Charlie, that's not it. We go to be of service. Go be of service to another human being. That's the cure for fear for me today. And go be of service to somebody else.
And then our needs are met, which was I created the block. So our troubles we think of our own making.
Yeah.
So I create the fear. I don't have fear. Like you know what I mean? I don't it's like I don't have anxiety. I don't think I can create it. I don't have too much stress. But man, if I'm a little getting to a gate, I have stress, and then the dopamine, the adrenaline, and I can fly and get to my plane because it was a good, that was a good case of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we this could go on for and Brenda and I were talking, and we will build modules and different and more in-depth trainings, and you could do it groups, and of course time for a 10 you can hire a coach and do an individual program. I'm a coach. I'm redoing my web. I haven't started, but I started the process today. And and fear, oh, I don't know everything. Good, because if I did, I wouldn't have any room in my brain. It's like I don't need to know the how. I see the why, the vision. I continue, like you said, I want to help people. My
Yeah.
suffering, my struggle, my denial, and my almost bitter end of life has transformed, not not just automatically or osmosisly. It took work with a mentor, a coach, with you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
day by day, we can just slowly and surely wake up.
Absolutely. We can wake up and we can deal with our fears and our conditioned thinking, our anxieties, our selfishness, self centeredness, all of that stuff. One thought at a time. We can work through it all
And
together, not by yourself.
no, I mean, alone you might do it. I'm okay once, but especially asking, could you direct my attention to what you would have me be in this moment? Because where I'm heading is not is self will. It's egoic.
Yeah.
It's not the truth.
Yeah.
And I might say, Brenda, another thing is that still feels good, like building it and going at it, but it's not sustaining.
No, not
I
at all.
pretend it doesn't bother me, but the body keeps the score.
It does.
I had a lot of work to do to find all these little compartments. I had like mini hard drives with stuff stored in me. And so the body is the language of emotion. So the body feels, and the mind is the thinking. So it's amazing. It keeps the score. Plus, when it holds all of that, and congruency, when your body is no longer running the fear show, telling and then connecting, and then all of a sudden you're doing things. When you get congruent or in harmony, aligned with heart, spirit, body, mind,
All bets are off.
that's
All
that's
bets are off.
That's where heaven is. You said you're a good Irish Catholic girl. The one thing you forgot to mention, remember purgatory?
No, I don't remember it anymore. I don't believe in it.
Well, I know, but they used to say, you might have to
Oh
sit,
yeah, yes.
I
Oh my
might have to
goodness.
sit in a holding cell.
Yeah, for eternity.
Hey, I also believed in Santa Claus.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah. So anyway,
This has been great, Charlie.
yes, it has, and this is we appreciate each of you. Thank you for your input on the ticker, the chat thing. We will take a look at them and get back to you or bring it into our next podcast. And if you please share this, go ahead and like it. Check out Time for 10, and pretty soon you can check out my website and and tell everybody about us. I don't have any fear asking.
Thank you, Charlie, for a great session.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.